Yeah, no, I talked for 2 hours about like 6 pages of rules.
Custody stuff, though, right?
Okay, sound check. Sound check.
Hello, and welcome to Death from the Custodies. Is
All
that
right. Yeah, we are good to go.
my audio is good?
Yep.
Okay. Good evening, and welcome to CanHammer, your stop for Warhammer 40k from the Great White North. Today's show is episode 181.
2.
82. Nah, it's one. It's
No, it's
two.
182.
Oh my god. Oh my god.
Start again.
Start again. Yeah, that's good. 82. So today's show is going to be all about some of the Ninth Ed rumors that dropped recently, and
Not rumors, man. These are real.
rules, rumors, leaks. We'll go with that.
Yeah, previews.
So as usual, I'm your host Chris at CanHammer Chris on Twitter and Instagram, and I'm joined by my co-host
Darren.
at CanHammer YT.
I'm still not on Twitter. I actually signed up and then literally like stopped using it. It was just like too many forms of media. Now with the Discord going so crazy, it's like too many media.
Definitely agree. I really enjoy the kind of following people for many, many years, like people that I was friends with, like, I don't know, 10 years ago, going to tournaments with, and maybe was on Twitter when it was bigger in the hobby. Now I think Instagram has taken over a lot of the hobby photos and stuff like that. And you can see what people are kind of doing and then check out what kind of games they're into. Like there's a lot of people that quit Warhammer and then you're like, oh, they're playing these cool games. And
Yeah.
so it's pretty neat.
Yeah. It's pretty cool. And our Discord was doing okay before Sunday, or Saturday, really. And then we seem to be the first people to get the Custodes leaks. They were translated by George from German into English and then later leaked in English. And then the floodgates just opened. Like we got about 400 people over a span of 36 hours. Now, 99% of those people just came, downloaded the leaks, and then left. But I'd say we boosted our actual active population by about 10%. There's commonly 150 to 200 messages in between times I check the Discord. It says you can't keep up anymore. So, yeah.
Well, it's pretty hot, and there's lots of sub boards. That's just the Custodes one. The rest of them are pretty chill.
Yeah, the rest are pretty chill, but the Custodes players don't just play Custodes, so it's starting to like spill into all the other channels too, and the painting and lots of people showing their work and stuff. So it's pretty cool. It's a pretty live place right now.
Great. So you've been doing anything interesting in the hobby? You had your first game in a while, correct?
Nope, that is on Monday. So be ready for that. June 22nd, socially distanced, responsible gaming with Francois, who just literally appeared in the Twitch chat.
His ears were buzzing.
Yeah, so I'm super. Oh my god! So I haven't played since before beginning of March, before we went on March break. So it's been a long time, and then super hyped because of new rules, and then we're trying a bunch of new of the ninth kind of stuff. So it's like a lot of stuff is just new. So it's super exciting for that too.
Sick. So you've been doing any hobbying, or are your Eldar done, or no?
No. So I've been spent 2 hours last night highlighting the bikers have those face plates on their helms, and so it took me a while to get those highlights looking nice with some blending and stuff like that. And then it took me another 20 minutes to highlight the little slipper that they wear, the little warlock slippers. Going hardcore on it, man. I'm going hardcore on it.
Yeah, and then there's me just speed painting and dipping a bunch of goblins in one night. But yeah, so yeah, I'm also on like the 90 days or 150 days without a game, scratching lines into the calendar.
Yeah.
Can't wait. I'd love to play a game
So
now.
Are you going in hardcore into Lord of the Rings, man?
No. I just already had it, right? So yeah, Andrew on our channel, he started getting into Lord of the Rings, and then they just released a whole bunch of new rules and sets, and I have a fully painted Mori army. I think we talked about it before. But so I dug out all the Lord of the Rings models I owned, and I started going around and assembling them and paint and just trying to figure it out. And I had like 9 Moria goblins to add to like my already army of like 60 or something. So I was like, I might as well just get them done. They've been sitting here years. Actually, it's probably longer than that, 8 years or something, 9 years. And sorry, excuse me. But we're dabbling into it. It's more, I guess the reason I'm getting into Lord of the Rings is I've been watching the movies and I've been listening to the podcasts like about it, and so I'm kind of getting like really just back into Lord of the Rings and how great it is. And it's kind of neat to paint a model that you don't really have to like rush to for a tournament. So that's kind of the Lord of the Rings story.
Yeah, so like
You?
I literally just finished watching all three of the movies again, and I forgot how good they were.
That's the thing, right?
Yeah.
It like brings back memories. You're like, these movies are fantastic. And then I had like a bunch of miniatures, so I was like, well, maybe I'll paint up some forces, and then that way, if Andrew or somebody in Ottawa wants to play a quick game, we'll just play a quick game just for fun, you know. I don't think it hurts to dabble in other stuff, especially right now when like I have no motivation to paint my orcs because I've already painted like 3,000 models, and I'm sitting there like, I'll just wait and see how the book goes.
Yeah.
Or the new edition. So,
Yep.
which is shaping up to be pretty damn cool for my orcs, actually. Like every rule I read, I'm like, oh, that helps me. That helps me. Oh, that doesn't bother me. Oh, that's good. So we might get into that, but
Yeah.
it's pretty interesting.
For sure. Francois offering that we should hold a little gaming day in your backyard since you have so much space. We can definitely socially distance.
Yeah, play by the pool. I could probably arrange that. Yeah. Is maybe when he goes to his cottage down where I live. So.
Yeah, he said he's going to bring his army to the cottage in July and then come to your house.
Yeah, I'm down. I'm totally down. So I guess let's get into, before we go into the main episode of 9th edition rumors and stuff like that. Let's pay the bills.
So thanks very much to Dan and Dylan at Red Dragon. And he seems to be doing pretty good now, on the definite road to recovery. So that's great news. Good. And so shout out to them, and shout out to all our followers on Twitch and YouTube, and subscribers and patrons. And of course, shout out to the Discord, which you can join by clicking that link there underneath Chris's head. It's a lively place right now for all sorts of activity. So there's been lots of voice chatting and great stuff. So shout out to everybody, and yeah, that's about it.
Actually, well, we should give a shout out to Tista Minis. I just placed an order from him. He had some Lord of the Rings models that are like out of stock or unobtainable anywhere else. So he didn't have all the ones I needed, but I needed a couple heroes, and so I ordered them from him, and he shipped them the same day, I believe. So, yeah, or at least the next morning. So it was great. Yeah,
David Tistamani's still, I think, still has CanHammer discount, and there's also Hoyt up at Thunder Games and Gifts as well. So funny thing talking about Hoyt, because he's the guy who sends us often the books that we give away on the channel. And right now, mail is taking like 4 to 6 weeks for like anything bigger than a letter, even if it's just from like Toronto or whatever. I ordered Forge World the morning it opened, whatever, Wednesday or Tuesday, whatever day it was. I think it was just yesterday, and I got it today, this morning.
What could you possibly need from Forge World?
More custodies.
Custodies.
But it got here this morning. It was like almost less than 24 hours, which is crazy. Crazy.
That was from Hoyt.
No, from Forge World, in Dallas or wherever their place is. It got here in like 24 hours, which I cannot believe.
Yeah, sounds good. I'd be pretty stoked.
Yeah, unless they've secretly have like a Canadian distributing center somewhere. I don't know. I think it's unlikely. It was marked from the States though, so that's weird.
No, it depends who ships it. But let's move on. So I want to talk about the first thing I want to get into before we get into the rules, which is everybody's kind of tuning in for our take of the rules. I want to talk about the preview of what's in the new kind of Warhammer starter set.
Yeah.
Because I found it pretty interesting. I pre-ordered one before they even went up for pre-order, and I didn't even know what factions were in it. But obviously it's a Space Marines, painted Ultramarines livery or whatever, and then the Necrons. And so it's a quite large, beefy set. It looks very, very nice.
So how much do you think it's going to be?
I bet you 250. It should be more, but I bet you it's going to be 250.
250. That seems reasonable.
Yeah, it could be up to 300, but that, you got to be careful with these. This set is apparently their first. This is not designed for new players. It's designed for people already in the hobby that want a lot of the new figs. So you can kind of tell that in that there's nothing kind of old or recycled in it. It's all brand new sculpts, brand new figures, brand new units. So for anybody that's been playing the hobby a long time and either wants to start Necrons or fill out their Necron army, or same with Marines, it gives you a couple of things you want. Now, if it's anything like Age of Sigmar, some of these characters might not be available anywhere else, and so certain things like maybe a Judicar, like I know when he's like the kind of the guy with the big sword, but we'll talk about him in a second. But like in Age of Sigmar, some of these models only came out in like the starter set, and you'd be like, okay, I need to buy like 3 halves of the starter set to get 3 of these like banner guys or whatever for the Stormcast. And this kind of really hits me as they're kind of moving towards the Age of Sigmar kind of release model. So I think this will be definitely worth picking up, even if the characters aren't the best, because maybe in a couple years that you might need, or next edition or next book, or who knows, in a couple weeks you might need 1 or 2 of these models. So it's probably definitely worth picking up and putting on like the shelf, which kind of sucks. But I bought 3 of the Age of Sigmar starter sets, the Stormcast half, and the characters sat in my shelf, and then eventually I could actually build a pretty competitive army with I forget the name of them now, but the banner guys, right? That were like, you couldn't get them anywhere else. You could only get them in the starter set. So
Yeah, I mean, GW has a tendency to release models in box sets and then maybe release them in the clamshell, but not till like 6 months later or something.
yeah, maybe.
Sometimes they don't do that. Yeah. So, I mean, I think it's definitely good. I mean, unless you have a store who's going to split it for you too, you kind of need the box to get the book. They're probably going to sell the book separately, but they haven't said that yet.
And they're never worth it. Their books are really expensive. Well, their books are really cheap. And I say that because I went to get like an indie rulebook printed at like Staples, and it was like $150 to print in color. So by comparison, like buying their color books is actually fairly inexpensive compared to what you're doing. But usually by the time you factor in, oh, I want the book, and even if you use 1 or 2 units out of these starter sets, they're usually worth it for the value. It's up to you though. Do whatever you want to do. I'm definitely getting one.
Yeah, a lot of people will split if they don't want half the box or whatever. So that's a nice economical way of doing it too. Or they'll split 2 boxes, so then they'll get double of the faction that they want.
Now these latest Marine leaks, so the Necron leaks, which we'll kind of go over a few units quick, but the Necrons, I think unanimously online, have a lot of hype. Everybody loves them. They look fantastic. Very few poor sculpts. They've improved a lot of the range. But the Marines, on the other hand, there's been a couple things that came out recently that just are a bit off, right? So the first kind of weird looking model, I guess you could say, is the Primaris captain from this set, and that's kind of the guy that, he's got like a storm shield with like a skeleton on it. There's a lot of skeletons in the new Marines. Mm-hmm. I guess they all of a sudden like carrying around corpses, and it's like bolted together. It's pretty interesting. But the guy's got a weird helmet. He's got like a gas mask, and then he has like an old knight's kind of slide down visor. It's kind of weird. And he's got like the on his right pauldron, he's got like the Terminator kind of shield.
Yeah.
But he's not in Terminator armor, so that's kind of weird.
Yeah. I don't know, like it's cool, and then there's a Necron body on the base, and which is probably part of the model. It's not like something that they just did. I just think it's like too much stuff. Then he's got all this crap on the skeleton on the shield, and then it's like this hourglass, and then he's got like all these scrolls and a belt, and like there's a lot of stuff going on here. His left arm is like wrapped in a scroll. I just noticed that now. Yeah, and even his little visor thing has like a little skull above it. It's like it's a lot going on.
Yeah, you get a new Primaris Lieutenant because everybody has probably 40 of those, and they never actually use them.
Yay! But he's got a storm shield.
Someone's got a storm shield and some kind of grav pistol.
Yeah, like a Volkite.
Yeah, or a new gun.
It's a new gun.
So who knows if he's worth it or not. I would never pay the points for Storm Shield on that guy, I don't think. But Primaris Chaplains are a thing now. And then they have, I guess, the Judicar, which just to me looks like they...
Or Judiceer. There's an I there. Judiceer.
Yeah. it looks like they were supposed to do like a Stormcast model, and like his armor is completely different than normal Space Marines. He's painted black. His head is weird, and he carries a sword, and he has a device that can control time.
So is that a helmet or is that his head?
That's
Put your
got to be a
put your
helmet.
money down.
It's got to be a helmet with a mask, but it could be his head. I don't know. It's he's a
He's
he's
got
a
an
swordsman that can
hourglass.
control time with an hourglass.
He kind of looks like the that night hunt dude who holds up the hourglass. Like, I guess if you have an hourglass, you need to hold it up, otherwise it won't work properly. So you always have to walk around with the hourglass out like this. Yeah,
I don't know. I just like that model bothers me because it's probably it's a great model, I guess, but it bothers me in that Marines are not supposed to be. So when Guilliman wakes up, when he died, he died basically pre-emperor, or the emperor wasn't really a full-on god back then, right? And when you read a lot of the books, and I'm back into the Horse Heresy reading that heavy, Marines are like essentially like atheists that are very like it just doesn't like having this time controlling kind of dark mysterious guy just doesn't really, I don't know, it just seems weird to me. I kind of worry about it with
yeah,
the aesthetic and the lore, but oh
yeah.
well.
And every single model has like a ring above his head now, which is annoying.
Yep. And then they have a bunch of new Primaris units, blah blah blah, and then the Outrider bikes, which I think are very 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 cool. I actually think it's a big improvement on the old style bikes. They look more realistic than maybe the previous Marine ones. Like these ones look like maybe they have some kind of stabilization, some kind of suspension that they're not going to fall over while the guy's waving his chainsword and driving by people.
Yeah, I like the bikes. They make you they give the impression that these do increase your toughness, not like the old Space Marine bikes, which don't look very tough at all. The problem is that there's not a lot of clearance here, like in terms of like riding around. There's not a lot of floor clearance.
Yeah, it's magic. It's Space Marine magic.
Yeah, I guess so. I guess so. And what's funny is, when they did the faction focus on Marines, they have all these new models here, right? Like a whole box of new models, and then the picture of models that they put in the faction focus was the old Devastator, like small Marines.
Yep.
Which is like, why did you show those models? I don't understand that. It's completely weird.
Yeah, Marines are they're morphing into something completely new than they maybe were when I got into the hobby. So my kind of nostalgia or my feelings about it are kind of changing. But at least they moved on. So they released a whole bunch of really cool new Necron models that look fantastic. A brand new Overlord model. He's
Yeah.
like
It's
fantastic.
beef. Look at the beef.
Yeah, the Necrons are a lot bigger. But the one thing I really appreciated about the Necron range is they kept the aesthetic. So I truly believe that without seeing them side by side, that these models will blend right into an existing Necron army, like the way that the feet are structured and the way that the legs are. Like they have this new thing called a Scorpec Lord, and he's basically like a giant lord with lots of guns, but he has kind of the traditional kind of spiderish legs on him, which is really fantastic. But they match. Like when you look at the old wraiths and you look at some of the old warriors and stuff, they definitely blend in really really well, and they've kind of given it that robotic, futuristic feel, but they've not reinvented the range, right?
Yeah.
So I love the new scarabs,
I
man.
like also that they showed these particular pictures are in a more bronzy look than the traditional like super silver look, which is kind of cool. They look a little bit more like, well, they look different but the same at the same time. So,
I think just the
pretty cool.
paint styles kind of evolved on them over time and gotten a lot nicer. I forget what dynasty the bronze ones are.
And I
But
really
back to-
like this reanimator. It looks super cool.
Yeah, it's fantastic. So I'm pretty stoked. But now I want to get on to the ultimate fail of the, I guess, model leaks, and that's the new Space Marine dune buggy thing. Oh my god, this thing got so much hate online, and some people are defending it, and some people are hating it. I think it just doesn't look right.
The memes are just amazing.
It just doesn't look right. I don't know if you know.
Oh.
Hopefully you've seen a picture of it because radio it's hard to see, but they've basically made when they did the Gene Stealer called quads, they looked amazing. And then they did like a Space Marine quad, and it just kind of looks like two Space Marines driving like a Tonka truck and just or a go-kart. It looks very G.I. Joe. A lot of people compared it to like old G.I. Joe cartoons, which is kind of interesting.
It does look like G.I. Joe, actually, now that you mention it, yeah.
Yeah. So there's tons of Joe memes and stuff, but I don't know. It might look really good in person and I don't know, but it's just kind of funny to see like a Space Marine quad. And I loved your comment online when you were like, they already have land speeders. Why would they want this?
Like what? Maybe they are getting land speeders very soon, but like, I guess this is like the new attack bike. And personally, I feel like a sidecar on their new Primaris bike would have been way cooler than this dude standing with like an auto turret on the top that's completely upright and doesn't look like it can turn at all. People are joking that it has flyer rules, so it has to only turn once and then it has to go in a straight line.
That's hilarious.
Yeah, so oh man, it's just not good. I don't know.
Okay, so let's move on to some of the new rules that GW has leaked, and we'll kind of give our take on how we think it's going to affect our armies and maybe the game in general. So do you want to start running through those?
Yeah, so as of the last time we casted, which was Wednesday last week, we then had the flyer rules previewed. So for aircraft, so right at the end of this edition, they introduced aircraft. And so we're talking about flying vehicles, so not monsters like Helldrakes and Hive Tyrants, stuff like that. So now they're bringing back to 7th now, so your aircraft can now leave the field and then come back in as go into strategic reserves and come back in the next turn. When they come back in, they can come in within 6 inches of a board edge, or they can deep strike 9 inches away anywhere on the table, facing in any direction. So that's the first difference from, say, in 7th, when they always had to come in from the edge of the table.
Okay.
I guess that's good. I mean, more flexibility.
Which I don't like.
Yeah.
So when I read those initially, I was just thinking, oh, so now these aircraft essentially can't really be blocked in and kind of run off the table, which I know sucks if you brought the aircraft and somebody, fills up the board of the horde and runs them off. But it also really sucked when people took 9 aircraft, right? So
There's no mention of change in terms of how many aircraft you can take. So I assume it's going to be the same.
Yeah, and I guess the only... So now aircraft are just going to be around the whole game. Now, mind you, with only -1 to hit being the maximum amount, maybe they're just way less survivable now, so they had to do that. But
the other thing we don't know, of course, is the detachments, right? So we don't know how many aircraft slots there will be. Is the air wing detachment still a thing? Don't know any of that information yet.
Yeah, like maybe you have very little CP if you take all those aircraft, right? Because maybe it's like you have to pay 3 CP or something for the detachment.
Yeah, that would be like 3 CP to bring 3 aircraft. That's a lot. That's a quarter of your CP. So.
Yeah, but if you just bring all aircraft and you nuke everybody, but I'm sure that like with the objective play and stuff, I'm hoping they balance the aircraft because they've always either been, for the most part, like so aircraft in the previous edition were either like OP or like crap. So we had like the Dark Angel aircraft spam, which was amazing. We had the Eldar spam near the end there, which is amazing. But a lot of the other ones were like just kind of like meh. Like some of the Orc aircrafts near the end there got some play, but they're still kind of just
those Iron Hands flyers. But that was more a problem with Iron Hands than the flyers.
Yeah, and that wasn't they nerfed those things right away.
Storm Raven spam got nerfed pretty fast.
Yeah, like I remember
Raptor thing.
The first 8th edition ETC was like every team had 4 Storm Raven armies.
Yeah, that was crazy. Okay, so now they've some of the rules basically that they'd already come up with in terms of how this model that has to have a base, even though it's not on the ground, interacts with models that are on the ground. So you can move within engagement range of an aircraft, and you can move over the base as you can before, but it sounds like you can still block movement because they can't end on your base.
Well, you can't block it. Like you can kind of do it, right? So if you're like, oh, you guys move 6 inches and my base is like whatever, we'll say 4 inches. I just have to be like 2 inches away from you to block you. But it's a start. It's much cleaner than before anyway.
Yeah, but you can end in engagement range, so you you could end up right base to base with the aircraft as a legal move. So
Yeah,
that
but you're not engaged, so it doesn't
so
matter.
it makes the blocking a little bit less. Aircraft can always move in advance, even when in engagement range. Models can freely move in and out of engagement range with an aircraft, and they can ignore the aircraft during heroics and combat movements like paladins and stuff, unless you have fly. Now, they didn't say any more then. So does that mean if you have fly, like you're a smash cat, and the aircraft that's the closest, you have to go that way?
So I believe, which might be garbage, but whatever. I believe that yes, when it says things like you must pile in towards the closest enemy model or unit, depending on how they flush that out, because I don't know if they've necessarily flushed that out yet. But when you do that, yeah, it makes sense because you can engage the aircraft in combat with with the jump pack. You have to move into it. That makes perfect sense to me. So that's why, yeah. So they'll like if you're within 3 inches of it, and you're heroic intervening. Yeah, you might as well hit the aircraft. You can't go around it and hit a character or something.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. And then there's going to be a new appendix. Apparently, there's going to be a whole bunch of appendixes that says what counts as aircraft. It sounds like they're going to be calling more units aircraft, but they specifically mentioned things like Helldrakes, Harpies, flying monsters as they will not be aircraft because that would be kind of silly. I think most people realize what's going to be aircraft. I don't think it's going to be any surprises there.
Well, Helldrakes won't be.
Helldrakes won't be, no.
So that's an interesting change.
Well, they're not aircraft now.
They kind of are, though.
Well, they don't have a minimum move or anything like that.
They don't have a minimum move, but they move fast. Yeah, you're right.
And they can charge people and stuff.
Not in the sense, but a Helldrake is to me. I don't know. Never mind.
So they did publish a list of some aircraft, and all of those vehicles are aircrafts that we all knew. So no surprises there. Nothing about minimum moves and forcing crashing by filling the board. So it sounds like you can still do that, although they could just max move and go off the table, especially with a smaller table.
Yeah, unless they really adjust the movement ranges to be a lot smaller, and then in which case, but like most aircraft can generally get off the board most of the time, right?
Especially going like width-wise. And then the obscuring rule, which we talked about last time, I believe, when we talked about terrain, you can always see planes, no matter where they are in relation to this piece of terrain, but they cannot necessarily see you because you may be obscured behind a rune or something.
Oh, that's a great rule. So yeah, so if you're like hiding in buildings, which kind of makes sense, right? You have an infantry unit in a ruined building, an aircraft dive bombing it probably isn't going to see the guys or know that they're there, right? So that's a great change. But you can always see airplanes. That's great. That also means that you don't have to, there's no more modeling for advantage with like aircraft bases, right?
In terms of
because you
like
can always
height.
Yeah,
So
like you know what I mean? Like
they're higher and they're lower flyers and stuff.
yeah, like nothing stopped people from like sawing it off, right? Or something. I don't know. Not that I never saw that, but I'm just saying like it just kind of means like an aircraft can just always be seen, which is great.
Yeah.
That just makes sense to me.
Yeah, that was it about aircraft. So it doesn't sound like too much is changing except for the fact they can go off and come back on.
But that might be a big deal, dude. That like just being always able to see them, having them be able to go off, it's going to change the way that you place them. It's going to change their survivability. You also look at that, as we said earlier, the -1, like not having multiple minuses to hit. Now you're looking at like, yeah, aircraft might be really good, but they also might just die a lot quicker. And they were on the edge before. Like some of those other aircraft without, even with the -1 and -2 sometimes to hit, they would still get shot down.
And also, they don't suffer heavy penalty, of course. So that's going to help a bunch of aircraft that were not
help
good.
Them do damage.
Yeah, that were not good because of heavy penalty. And then, of course, so if you do have aircraft flying off, then you get basically a turn of not having to deal with them. So that will factor in, and then having to maybe have to block them out.
Well, it's really hard to fill up the board if they can come on anywhere. Like, let's be honest, that's really hard. But
character sniping and stuff.
But just the fact that they can go, like, it seems like it's just a little bit more thought out than they were previous edition, which is great. But I don't want them to change them that much.
Yeah, yeah. No, it's pretty good. I like the changes. All right, we had some. They leaked some rules for the Necrons. The new Solar Fury for the Mephrit Dynasty is basically in half range. They get increased AP by 1, so that's good. The Doom Scythe Death Ray will be blast. It's a variable number of shots, so it's going to be blast, which they already said. So that's kind of cool. And then this Reanimator, this War of the Worlds type model, has this Reanimator beam. Friendly models within 9 inches of it get +1 on their reanimation, and this is done in the command phase. So that is a stratagem that references a 9th edition phase. So does that mean... So where are we going to see that stratagem? In the next Psychic Awakening? Or
no, I'm assuming the Necrons are getting a new book.
Yeah?
They're going to be one of I'm assuming they're the first to get a new book.
Yeah, that's interesting anyway.
Because this edition is focusing on them waking up. And the sheer volume of new releases for that range means that almost all the pictures in the old book are going to be out of date too. So they're going to want to get a new book out as fast as possible.
So are they actually in the Pariah book, The Last Psychic Awakening?
I don't have it yet, so.
Yeah, it's interesting because maybe they're not even in that book because they're literally coming out 2 weeks later with a codex.
I don't really know, but
don't know.
I'll have when I get it, I get it. I don't think I ordered that one yet, but I'm going to.
The next one up, yeah. Okay. Marines.
Yeah, but I pre-order early. Don't worry about it.
Yeah. I'm on auto pre-order with Dan. He just auto pre-orders everything for me. The new bikers, the Primaris bikers. So they are T5. They have 4 wounds instead of just an extra wound. So 2 extra wounds. They have
pretty good.
2 attacks base. They get shock assault. They have chain swords, so they get an extra attack for a chain sword. And these are probably their new chain swords, which everybody thinks is going to be AP1 chain swords. And then they have a special ability which gets them an extra 2 attacks on the charge. So they have base on the charge 6 attacks.
Yeah,
which is a lot.
Which is a lot, but you don't know what they're going to cost points wise, and we don't know. Yeah.
What do you think? Like 40, 45?
Oh, I have no clue.
I mean, 4 wounds, so that's worth X amount of points right there. T5, 4 wounds.
Probably a lot.
That's
like they're better than Terminators. More survivable than Terminators.
And of course, they move 14 and auto advance 6. And if you play them in White Scars, they can do all sorts of crazy stuff. So yeah.
Yeah, it sounds crazy. Yeah.
It's going to be pretty good. Thunderfires are still a thing. Tremor Shell stratagem is still a thing. The big question is, are Thunderfires going to go up in points? I hope that they will. But we'll see. We'll see. Grav Amps is still a thing. And this new pistol on the Lieutenant, this Neo Volkite pistol, is a 15-inch pistol. Strength 5, AP 0, 2 damage, unmodified rolls of 6, cause immortal. So, okay, fine. Your Lieutenant maybe is a little bit more hitty. And yeah, we didn't get rules for the Marine buggy. We just got the pictures.
Yeah, it's just ugly.
It doesn't need rules. Nobody can. All right. It almost looks like orc buggies, actually. Kind of.
Well, I don't know if I like. Why you got to be mean to the orcs, right? What did they do to you? Let's just leave it at that.
Oh man. Okay. Overwatch. So I think it was 2 or 3 shows ago we had discussed Overwatch, that they said it was going to change, and we had said we just want to get rid of Overwatch. So they didn't get rid of Overwatch, but
they kind of did.
They've reduced it significantly.
They basically did.
Yeah. So it's now, to Overwatch, it's 1 CP. So that means only 1 unit can do it because it's a stratagem. And
well, we don't know if that's still going to be a rule, but yeah.
It is. They said only 1
they did confirm that.
Once per phase.
I thought they. Yeah. So great. So they got rid of Overwatch.
Yeah.
Great.
So, I mean, unless you feel like you're really going to do some stuff in Overwatch, you're probably not going to spend that CP, right? And it kind of also maybe invalidates a little bit all the stuff that denies Overwatch, but that's okay. So then in this preview, they also previewed this defensible trait. So in the terrain preview, things like ruins have a trait that's called defensible, and so now defensible has a number of rules associated to it, so it kind of goes down 2 or 3 levels of rules here. And one of them is hold steady. The unit that's in the rune can overwatch on a 5-up. Of course, you still have to pay your CP, I presume. Or set to defend. You don't get to overwatch, but you get a +1 to hit in melee.
Yeah, I like it. Yeah, so like the changes to Overwatch make sense to me. There's going to be times where it's worth it, and there's going to be times where it isn't. And I like that you have that option. Right now, Overwatch, as we said, slows down the game, and it's that kind of thing where it's just like, well, I might as well do it because everything hits on 6s. Whereas now, it's going to be something that you really think about, and you only do it if you have certain weapon types, right? Ones that auto hit. Maybe you'll use that strat for them, or if it's something that's extremely important, that a pot shot or a very small, like something with a very small statistical chance of getting through is worth it, right?
Yeah.
So I kind of like that aspect of it, whereas now it's just like, oh, you charge me, I roll everything, blah, 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 blah. And it's like, okay, just roll dice for hours, and
nothing
it
happens.
Also, yeah, nothing happens, but it also does. And then when you think about, in terms of like Tau, I'm assuming they work the same way. So you use this stratagem that one unit can overwatch, and then the rest of the army can overwatch as well. Like, I'm kind of assuming that that's going to stay that way for them.
So
I don't think it's going to be a big deal.
Yeah, they said Tau Greater Good ability will still modify Overwatch. So you can still do it on a 5-up, for example, for Tau Sept.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's not clear how that rule exactly will change in terms of how many people can overwatch, but
well, the Tau already get to overwatch with everything if you're within range and stuff, but it might allow you to, especially against something like that, is like to sacrifice and then throw in another unit. And I think it's cool. It adds that flexibility, and it doesn't get rid of a mechanic. It just kind of lessens its impact. And if the goal of this edition is to bring in assault troops, well, you kind of got to get rid of Overwatch.
Yeah. Nothing's worse than getting overwatched, losing models, and then failing your charge. It's like the worst.
Yeah, well, especially with some of these armies, look at your Custodes bikes, for example, right? Like, it's like you move up, you shoot me with your bolters, and you roll like 100, I don't know, like 400 dice or whatever it is you roll. Then I charge you, and you roll like 400 dice, right? And it's like, oh my god. So I just really appreciate. I just kind of like that. Made me really, really happy.
I would probably still do that for a CP and then 5-up Overwatch for another CP.
Yeah, if you have like your big unit. Exactly. Yeah, if you have the really big unit, yeah, I'll Overwatch you if you're coming in with something that's like squishy.
Yeah.
But not really.
All right. They did mention in Crusade you could get a battle trait that grants a 5-up Overwatch, but anyway.
Great.
So that was kind of the big change to Overwatch. There may be other changes, but that was the one that they previewed. Which I think is cool. I also like how we've seen a couple of things now in terrain improve combat, like melee. So you can get a +1 save in heavy cover in melee, and you can now get this +1 to hit too. So that's kind of cool. So now you got three up weapon skill units now being 2-up if they're in heavy cover, if they're in defensible terrain. So that's kind of cool. Like the terrain's starting to become more fleshed out, and like looks like it may actually have some real benefits to it.
It's neat, yeah, but it might also hurt assault armies, but whatever. We'll see how it goes.
Yeah. All right. The next thing they mentioned, so when you read these articles, by the way, guys, do go all the way down and read even the little asterisk footnotes, because there's some real gems there sometimes. So the strategic reserves rule is now allows you, when you come in, to come in on the board edge, as we already know. You can come in on the board edge on your opponent's deployment zone. And if you are doing that in their deployment zone, you can actually come right in within an inch of them and straight into combat.
I thought that was on yours. You sure you read that right?
I think it was when you come in. Is it just in your own?
No, I thought it was in when you come in your own zone, you can go right into combat.
Oh, okay. I maybe
Here,
read that wrong.
go double check it. Go double check.
Maybe I read that wrong.
Which one was that one in? Space Marine Focus?
I don't know.
Or Necrons? Or Overwatch?
It was the Overwatch. Yeah. Overwatch. Overwatch Overhaul. All right, let me check it out.
No, it wasn't in the Overwatch one. But anyway, yeah, that's, I think that was quite expected. And, the one that surprised me was that you could come in like right close to the enemy and then like kind of knock them out of your zone. So
yeah. Yeah, that's pretty cool. That's pretty
But
cool.
you're gonna double check that right now.
Yeah, I
Just
can't find it right now.
okay. What's the next one then? So somebody let us know. So you,
Yeah, somebody can let us know.
I
Chris
was
is
under
right.
the
You're right, Chris. You're right.
yeah, because it yeah, that's how I read it. Then you just said it the backwards, and I was like, maybe I'm crazy, but no, I don't think so. But yeah, so it's kind of nice that like when you put something in reserves, if somebody's super aggressive or they're going right into your zone early on, you can then clear them out a lot easier, which is nice. It also means that you could maybe even keep some of your like counter charging elements or some of your counter reserve, like counter combat or like you can kind of keep them off the table. And then if the opponent does commit to your zone, you can use them to back up your backfield. And if they don't, you can bring them on in their zone. You have to be further away, and the charge is going to be hard to make. But at least then you have that kind of flexibility where, oh, just because I have these units in reserve doesn't mean that they're screwed and they're out of the game. They can both protect me and kind of put that pressure on
it's
you.
It's kind of cool. You can't get blocked out of your own deployment zone. 9 inches away. Like it's my zone. Like I should be able to come.
Well, you still can get blocked out if I'm reading it correctly. It's just that the guy has to really block you out, right?
Well, you have to still come in within 6 inches of the board edge, but you don't have to stay 9 inches away. You can come right into engagement range.
Yes, but if I put my guys in a straight line on your board edge, that's what I'm saying. You still can be blocked. It's just it's like way harder.
Sure, but then your guys aren't really doing that much, I guess. I guess it depends on the situation.
But it depends what's in. Yeah, it depends what's in. But so I have a feeling that you still probably can block somebody out and kill the reserves, but it's just very less likely now. Like you have to commit way too many units. Like maybe the orcs could do it with like 90 boys, but then you would have had to really screw up.
Yeah, yeah.
I like it though. No, I like that change. I think the less, even though I used to exploit it a lot, I think the less like of just blocking things off the table that you can do is probably better for the health of the game.
Yeah, nobody likes like getting stuff blocked. Like it's just not
But it's glorious when it happens.
Yeah,
it's really fun.
Yeah.
When you're the one doing it. Yeah, when you're the one doing it.
All right. Lookout Sir is the name of the new. I don't know if it's a new name, but it's the character rule. It's the character rule. So the character rule now has been changed. You cannot target the character. So you can target a character only if it is the closest model to you, or if is anywhere and not within 3 inches of a vehicle, monster, or a unit with at least 3 models in it.
Yeah.
So that's big. I mean, a lot of times you'll just have characters scattered on objectives in your backfield with nothing around them, just standing in the wind, and you can't do anything about that. And now you can.
Yeah, I definitely is going to have a major impact on certain armies. Like, for example, when you took Night Titans, you would always take you could take the Admech battalion. You'd have the 2 characters, and you just put them in the backfield. They would help screen you out and stuff like that. This eliminates a lot of the character screening. Now, you can still hide them out of line of sight, so that won't be a big deal, but artillery now will be able to just shell characters in the backfield.
Just shoot you, man.
Yeah, which is interesting. I really like this rule for what it does for the game, but it's going to be some repercussions. Like you're going to have to be way more careful with how you place things like shock attack guns and things of that nature. Like I used to put it way up on the top of a building and then put all my grots out in front of the building, like 6 inches away, kind of. And like you'd string them up, but then now it's like, oh, you clear the grots, you can shoot that guy, right?
Yeah.
So
you're going to have to be way more careful if you have mobile characters with your screens, to keeping them within 3 inches. You're going to have to be careful where you remove casualties to keep your characters within 3 inches. 5-man units as screens maybe becomes a little bit more tricky. So there's a lot of implications on that.
Yeah. Oh, huge ones. Like you put a smash captain into a left flank, let's say, of an army. Well, normally you'd be like, well, you still can't shoot him even though he's on the left flank because I have these guys in front of you. But now it's like, no, he's not within 3 of a unit. I can just blow him apart.
Yeah.
And you could also, if he's next to a unit, you can kill that unit and then kill him.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it gives you that choice. Like right now with the character rules, it's like, oh, they just sit there and they never die. And it's very frustrating for a lot of people. I exploit the crap out of it too. But now it's like you have that choice. It's like, oh, you only have 2. Like you have a guard. Let's say you have a guard commander in the middle of the board and he's behind 40 guardsmen. Well, I can just kill those 40 and shoot them. It doesn't matter that you have a tank in front of me, right? Like I can still kill that guy. So I
Yeah.
really like that. I thought the characters were almost too powerful in 8th edition. The character rules were too powerful.
Yeah.
They let certain
So
armies
they
do
did
things.
point out that the character still has to be visible to shoot them. So, but artillery
Yeah, we
can
talked about that's
shoot.
what I said about
Artillery can
artillery.
shoot things that are not visible. So,
Yeah, but most things need to be visible to do their function.
yeah.
Not most, but a lot of them. So yeah, and if your characters are hidden in the backfield, so what? They stay there.
I
Like
tell
there's
you
so
what,
much exploiting with shooting units forward and throwing characters on objectives and just kind of it makes the game look silly, right?
I would love to be able to snipe some Farseers that are just 17.9 inches away from the unit they want to buff. I'd be like, pink pew. Yeah, it's great. Like we were
So
even talking.
some units are going to suck from this though, right?
Yeah, we were even talking today for Custodies of bringing a single Caladius tank that has 60-inch range and will nuke any character in the game. And for the first, 2 months, 3 months, you're going to just gotcha people who totally forget about that.
Maybe. But like things like assassins and stuff, like let's say you have a Vindicare and now you have to have units babysit them, which is interesting.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. You can shoot a Vindicator because he's always on the freaking top of a building with nobody around him.
Yeah, that's the real implication, stuff like that. Yeah. So you're gonna have to see people take more infantry, take more units. Now vehicles do work if you're within 3, but if you're on the left side of a vehicle, well, it's really easy to probably get a unit in there and shoot you. So I think characters, maybe we were full of crap earlier when we said, look, I'm never gonna put storm shields on them. Well, maybe the Primaris Marines will want their storm shields because more stuff will be shooting them.
Maybe. Got to shoot
But
shoot those Marine captains.
for my orcs, though, I was like, I'm just gonna take like so many grots that my characters are just gonna chill, just chill.
Just
Unless
chill.
grots go up to like 8 points each or 4. Who knows?
10-point grots. Ah!
Grot tide is dead. Yeah, who knows? So that was a huge leak. Like that's a huge change.
Yeah.
And I think it's for the better. Yeah, I do.
Yeah, I think just gonna be more careful. Can't just leave a guy on a back objective and go forward and leave him there with doing nothing, getting you points. It's not a thing anymore.
Well, it is if he's hidden, and then if the opponent doesn't have artillery. Like, so there's going to be things, right? You're going to be like, oh, hey, do you have anything that shoots indirectly? No, you don't. Okay, is there terrain in my deployment zone? Yeah. Well, I'm going to place this, or I think you place the terrain in a lot of the missions anyway. I don't know how that's going to be in tournaments, but I'm going to put a terrain right in front of this objective. Boom, this character's behind the wall. Still the same effect.
Yeah.
But the character has to stay behind that wall.
Yeah.
So there's like a limitation. Whereas before you could be like kind of using them to screen and you could move them up and kind of keep them, back from your wall. But now you're just going to have to hide them. And so people are going to be okay with that, though.
Yep. It's just a different way of playing.
Like it might have no impact on the game because of the new terrain rules, but the more little technical things like that are cleaner, just the smoother the experience will be.
Yeah. All right, and another thing that was revealed today in a asterisk at the bottom of the Sisters article was that when you charge, you have to make it into all your declared targets, or else you fail and you can't move.
I like this a lot.
That's a big change.
I like it and I hate it, but so I think a lot of the problem this edition was that you would drop it and you'd be like, I'm just going to charge every unit within 12 inches, depending on what you were, of course. And you'd be like, I'll just declare because I might roll the 6 and then I can pull off some really tricky shit. And there was almost no repercussions. There was a little bit of Overwatch, but some armies like that Overwatch just wasn't a big deal. Or maybe you could hide behind a wall and just declare charges on everything.
Or you did that to deny Overwatch because you had the relic that says whatever you declare on can't Overwatch.
There's that as well. Or what you would do is a lot of like assault armies would declare charges on all units within 12 inches, and then they would fight twice, right? So they would charge, make the charge, pile in, fight, consolidate, pile in, fight, consolidate. Now, if you want to pull off something where you're going to just go through like 2 or 3 units, you're going to have to really take that chance, right? And I think most people are going to, charge 1 unit, maybe 2, depending how close you are. And I think it's a lot easier to mitigate kind of that. I'm going to drop in these orcs 9 away, and I'm just going to charge like 3 of your units and tie them all up, right? Or fight them. And now you might still be able to tie them up, but you don't get to fight them again and clear it. And a lot of like Chaos players did that with the like they would just like Corn Berserkers did it really well, and oh my god, Zangors did it very well. So they would go in, they just like nuke 2 units, but now it's like, well, you won't be able to do that.
And
I really like it.
Of course, we're assuming that those other rules about charging remain the same. So you can only fight what you declared. Like, we're assuming that all those are unchanged, but they could be changed, so we don't know. But yeah, as it stands right now, that's a big change.
Yeah, and you can only move within an inch of units that you declared a charge on. So yeah, it's definitely
so you can't declare
better.
You can't declare like a character who's 7 inches away just to stop a heroic. You know, because now if you can't get to that character physically, then you're screwed.
So my big takeaway from the leaks from this week was in the previous edition, there's a lot of things that were just like, you just do it. Or it was just like, there's no repercussions, or there's almost no repercussions. And there's a lot of just like, oh, you just do this. Whereas now it seems like everything has like a choice to it. Yeah. Like, which unit do I want to overwatch? Do I want to overwatch? Okay, no. Does it matter? Do I take weapons that auto hit so that I can use that overwatch stratagem and stop people from charging me? Like, there's a lot of options there. And then it's like, when I charge, there's no, fuck it, I'll charge everybody. I have to be, I have one unit that's 8 inches away, and I have another unit that's, 10 inches away. Is it worth it to hit them both? What's the payout versus the odds of failure? And I really like that. I really like that it's taken the might as well. Like I hate it when people are like, just might as well do it. Might as well roll my Overwatch. You didn't put a chest clock down, doesn't matter. But now it's just really added that tactical element to it. And I think this is better for players that really think about the game and really place their units in a correct way. And it stops you from, like, you could stop it before. You could be like, okay, I'll be 9 away, and then my next line will be over 12, so you can't declare that charge. But that forces you to have like lots of models and lots of lines. And this kind of might allow you to do the same thing without having to have that like 3 to 4 inch gap to make sure it doesn't happen.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I like it. I think it's a nice change.
Yeah. Yeah. It does seem to be there. There's more choices to make. Impactful choices. Yeah. Versus, are you going to Overwatch or not? Well, why would you not? Yeah.
Yeah. Like, yeah, you're not going to charge. You're not just going to charge an entire enemy army, which I know like it's not real, but you're going to, your combat unit is there to do a specific thing. And their thing might be going into the heavy weapons units or clearing the chaff. And so you're going to have to use it in that way. And it also means that you probably need less chaff. That rule right there means you probably need less units to hold your position, which means if they want the model count to go down and they want you to have more cool toys and less just like hordes of shit to hold back the enemy so your cool toys can kill, this kind of does that.
Because you don't really need a solid line. You just need some kind of a line because they can't really charge the people in the back anyway.
Precisely.
They risk failing like a 1 inch charge because they tried to make a 9 inch charge.
Well, you got to think about it. Even like, so think about my orcs, right? I drop in the front and you have a unit of 10 guardsmen on the left flank and a unit of 10 on the kind of the right. And it's enough to kind of keep me back 9. Well, you could have another line of guardsmen like an inch behind it or something that you want protected, and it might not be killable, right? Or it might be like I might be able to wrap it or something, but depending on what it is, like you just don't need as much. Yeah, maybe. We'll see. But it's cool. It's cool. Yeah, I just the charge rules just felt silly right now. Like the only time you wouldn't declare massive charges is if you were scared of Overwatch.
Yeah, which was rare.
Yeah. Some armies though it was scary.
Some armies, yeah. Okay, yeah. So that takes us up to today. So we got some questions on the chat. Rade wants to ask you if you're going to keep your mustache after COVID. I think you didn't even have one last week. Did you have a mustache last week? I can't remember.
Yeah, this is week 2. This is week 2 of my mustache. No, I was going to shave today. I actually was like really going to shave today. But my parents stopped by to drop off some stuff. So I was outside and I didn't have time to shave. Mm-hmm. That's the mystery. Yeah, I should shave. I look terrible right now. Like I hate having this mo. I hate it. And like you guys can probably tell I'm touching it if you're watching live. Like it's very itchy. I'm a wuss with facial hair.
I only shave once a week now, but I don't grow that much facial hair.
Well,
So
I haven't shaved in 2 weeks, so
yeah, yeah. All right. How do you feel ninth meta is shaping up? I see a lot of people saying it's going to be combat heavy. Then there's tar pitting tanks is going to be a thing of the past. It's going to be very vehicle heavy, monster heavy. I don't. It's hard to predict, but people just play what they think is good.
it's hard to predict. I think initially it's going to be vehicle heavy, just based on the rules I've read. I
Yeah,
think combat is going to be very similar to how it was before. I don't think it's going to be that much crazier because for every pro combat rule you read, there's one that like kind of slows it down, like that charge
yeah,
rule or something, right? So, meta wise, though, I think it's going to be initially very similar to last edition. There'll be the guys that have early access that'll have like the meta breaking crap, but most people will be playing what was good in the previous edition, and then they'll slowly change a few units. So, kind of, yeah, plan for that. Use what you got. But I think vehicles are definitely really good. So people are going to crack out their vehicles, especially with all the pro vehicle hype online. Everybody's gonna be like, "Well, I have a guard army, I'll crack out my tanks, or I have Space Marine tanks, I'll crack them out." Like it's gonna be. I think that's gonna be a real thing.
Sean's asking, what were any of these like? What's the biggest surprise out of these new rules? Were there any of these surprises for you?
Um, like not
I've
shocking surprises. Everything is like obviously we didn't know anything, but I think if you're asking like what's the big that lookout sir rule, I think was a big kind of like oh shit moment. Like when I read that, I don't know about you.
the charge thing's kind of big too. Those last two things are big. The
Yeah,
Overwatch
the
thing is
charge
like,
thing.
okay, Overwatch, whatever.
I'm glad they did Overwatch. I wasn't surprised. I kind of knew it had to go. The game felt too clunky. And they really wanted to streamline it.
Yeah, yeah.
That was about it, though. Yeah, I think the if I had to pick one rule that was the big it would be probably probably the new Lookout Sir rules would be the big like yeah. I just like it. I like that you have to be within range of a unit. It's very AOS.
All right. Do you think that the passive aggressive nature of the Marine faction was intentional? Did the writers want us to complain about Marines? Are they oblivious to the general consensus of Marines?
I actually believe that they're giving Marines the Stormcast Eternal treatment. And as a Stormcast player in Age of Sigmar, I draw a lot of parallels to that because it was like every new release, there's like all these new Stormcast units, and all the old units kind of like, for the most part, were like, I don't really want those or don't need them. And Marines are kind of hitting me as that, like, they're just ballooning the range with all these new units, and they're going to cull. I think they're just going to cull all the old ones.
Yeah.
So I find it very.
Which was why it was weird to show those old Marines in that faction
Yeah,
focus.
definitely was.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just like I don't know. It's they don't like I'm reading the Horus Heresy books right now, and the Marines of today are unrecognizable of the 30K, I guess their roots. And I think it's just strange, but that's just me. But that's also because like when you're it'd be like if somebody went into Lord of the Rings and they rewrote part of it, as we were talking earlier, but I don't think like for somebody new getting into it, this might be better. I don't really know that, but for me, they're just changing something that I really loved as a child, right? And it's hard to read the Horus Heresy books now and be like, oh, this is what they became. But
Yeah.
I don't know. That could be me being sentimental. I definitely just want what's good for the hobby. So we'll see.
All right. With the changes to Overwatch, what should we expect to see factions change their tactics to? Are we going to see a large increase in Alpha Strike armies like Raven Guard, Space Wolves, Blood Angels, etc.? I don't know. I don't know if that change to Overwatch will really change any of that.
That's a tough question. So Alpha Strike is a real thing in this game, but it's one of those things where if you have a really heavy Alpha Strike army, you win like 3 out of 4 games. And you might win them very consistently. But in 40K, and this goes way back, The armies that always won were the armies that could dish damage out, also survive, hold on to the board, and kind of play the long game. So I think that's going to be what's going to be very successful again. There's no reason why it wouldn't be. So, like the theory behind Alpha Strike is you kill so much of your opponent that they can't hurt you back, so it doesn't matter. But
Yeah.
with the terrain rules and the hiding, I don't actually know if Alpha Strike will be the way to go because your opponent can reserve a lot of stuff. They can hide behind terrain. So I think having a more calm, collected, keep the enemy pinned in zone, do a lot of damage when they do come out kind of strategy will be better just because of that.
Yeah. Now with
Like
the
if the
ability,
terrain is everywhere, you're not touching me. Like
yeah,
like most like I'm gonna be having orc boys hidden. Like
yeah.
that's crazy, but it's gonna happen now.
And if I get like +1 to hit, and if you charge me in that terrain, and I get +1 save and melee from the terrain, like there's a lot of new stuff going on there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And as far as like, is combat going to be the thing? I think, even in 8th edition, you needed that one combat unit to clear the bunker, to clear the ruins, to get behind that wall. And I think you're still going to need that, maybe one or two. But shooting is still going to be very important. And I think indirect fire is going to be the bee's knees in this edition.
Yeah. If you haven't.
Or things that like can drop in and clear that stuff out. Like, I think like Seraphim for the sisters, which are something that I only have like 15 of, but I think they're going to be something that's really, really good to have, right? Something that can drop in, charge, clear a building, or hold an objective, just like before. It's about objectives, right? It's not about actually like the only reason you should kill something is if it helps you hold objectives. And so that also means like sometimes you kill things just so that they don't kill you so that you can't hold objectives. But killing is a second part of the game.
And it looks like to hold your objectives, you're going to have to survive a turn. So.
And you're going to need troops that can actually do the objectives that are listed. And so they're going to have to be alive. So you're going to have to use your reserves correctly and you have to use terrain correctly. So yeah, it's going to be an interesting game. Hopefully it's more about mobility and placement than just like blowing people off the table. Yeah.
Yeah. What do we think about the relative power of Necrons? I mean, we haven't really seen any of their rules, really, so it's hard to say. I mean, they're getting all new models, which is great, so probably they're going to have, by the laws of probability, a few things in there that are going to be really good. And I don't know if they were that far from being good. They did have one or two really good builds, but they were pretty limited. I think if they get reanimation a little bit better for the premium that they pay for reanimation, and they have like a lot more variety of units they can use, I think it'll be good.
Yeah, I think the book lacked variety, and so now that they'll be flushed out more and they'll get some more attention, I think they should be better. But
I mean, reanimation is one of those kind of rules that either really kind of does not much, or it's like way crazy, right?
Yeah,
like you just can't kill anything, right? So it's really hard to get that balance right. And so they had it the wrong side probably one time. So maybe next time it's going to be like, I just cannot kill these guys.
Yeah, I definitely am excited for the Necrons to get some love. They are a major part of the lore. Like they're a scary enemy. Like, the Imperium would abandon whole planets if they discovered any Necrons on them. So it's neat that they're kind of coming back from the dead because they're essentially a major part of the history of the galaxy, right? So I like that. But yeah, rules wise, who knows, man? They could be trash for all we know.
Yeah,
I doubt it. Cool.
All right. Do you think we'll see another huge wave of new people enter the game like we did when 8th came out? I think so.
Yeah, so I don't think it'll be because the edition came out. I think it'll be because of the steps that Games Workshop has taken with their IP. Even things as simple as like that Space Marines animated movie that guy did that's like fantastic. I'm seeing that in all other places popping up, like YouTubers doing reviews on it and stuff, people that aren't into the hobby. So I think just the amount of games and literature and stuff that's being released, and then of course for every person that gets in 8th edition, they're going to want to get in their friends for the next edition. So
Yeah.
it's I definitely hope it does, and it'd be great. And yeah, it should, as long as they do what they say they're going to do, as long as
App
um,
works.
the app works, the model count drops. So right now you're looking at like $1,000 per army realistically. And if they can get that down to like AOS levels where it's like half that price or, cheaper because the model counts dropped, it's also less work for people to play and paint and get into, then it's definitely going to improve. Yeah.
Yeah. And you always
I
have
think I
like,
think the
sorry. Oh.
I think the 8th edition kind of model bloat at the end really hurt it in terms of new players.
Yeah, and anytime there's the new edition, you're always going to have people who stopped playing because usually the editions kind of get a little bit crazy but at the end of near the end, and then they come back for the new edition, right? Like just like new expansions of video games. And so a certain number of people will come back, and there's always going to be new people joining because it's a new thing and they feel like they can get in at the bottom level now. So yeah, so there's definitely a lot of those kind of things. So okay, so they mentioned in one of the earlier streams that some rules released would be part of mission packs, and they would be releasing mission packs as time goes on. What rules would you want to see rotate in and out, like in mission packs, that could encourage interesting list design? Well, they already said that their packs may have themes to them, like this mission pack is focused around, I don't know, whatever, objective holding, and this one's focused around whatever. So they already said that they were going to do that there might be themes to the mission packs. So I think it's just cool that if they can keep releasing all these mission packs, that we just keep having this new stuff to play. I think that's amazing. I don't know how frequently they plan to do that, but
I always liked kill points in certain times. So like if they were to say like, okay, we're going to change out some of the secondaries, like it'd be neat at some point in time, the MSU is going to get big. And so it'd be nice to have like kill points or something that comes in and then disappears. And then when the MSU for objective play gets big again, the kill points come in and kind of keep resetting that. I like that aspect of it. Like I don't want a lot of killing focused missions or killing focused like goals in your game, but I definitely appreciate that. And like if you think about like the ETC when we did, they always had kill points in every mission. And some editions it was a big deal, and some it wasn't. And they did like some years it was like, oh, it'll be a 6 cap differential, and some years there'd be like no differential. But so I would like to see something like that, like where they use different aspects of the game to kind of change what's necessarily
good or prevalent
running over the meta. Yeah. So like if really small elite armies are coming in, well then I would like to see like an up of the objective play. So if Custodes are rocking it, and like of course if Custodes armies are getting smaller, you're looking at like 15, 20 guys. Yeah, well maybe I want more objective play, less like killing play. And
the really cool thing that they've done is they have basically wrapped all the mission formats that people play into one format now. You know, everybody has already said that they're playing GW missions. All the big tournaments, ETC, ITC, all these, everybody's going to play the same. And so now they can use mission design as another way of, I'm not going to use the word balancing, but another way of changing what people play or how they want people to play. So it's just another tool they can use other than points or new books or, like beta rules or things like that, which I think is pretty cool.
Well, and to be honest, the missions are the game.
Yeah.
We put a lot of like people put a lot of emphasis on like points, and like the actual game is the missions. Like that's what you play. That's the game.
Yeah.
So like without the missions, there's like I still remember playing in 7th edition fantasy, and I loved it where every mission was the same, and it was all about killing units and not losing units, and like that worked back then, and it. But it's just like you don't want the same old. You want it to change, and they want it to change because they want you to have to,
buy new
take combat units and change it up. And it also, if there's a lot more variety in the missions, then people are going to take much more varied armies.
Yeah.
Right. If all the missions are samey, you're just going to take like the same army to all of them. Right. So, yeah, that's what I want to see. Just
maybe encourage
Use the
more.
missions to balance the game and to encourage. I want to see a lot more mobility and a lot more moving, and I don't want to see stuff like. I know we're getting off topic a little bit, but I don't want to see stuff where it's like my Eldar flyer is just going to fly, or like my tank is just going to, or my bikes are going to go really fast, grab the objective, and then they're gone, right? Like, I want to see things where it's like it rewards you for hiding and moving units out and kind of jumping on objectives and distracting people. And I want to see it more fluid and more about mobility. So that's what I want to see, more mobility in the missions.
Yeah. Okay, last question I have here. How excited are you about the new Forge World book?
Not at
What's
all.
your
Me
expectation
personally?
about that?
So the only way that I'll be really happy with it is if they remove all Forge World rules for models that do not have models. Sorry, that was the wrong word. For figures that do not have models. That'll make me happy. If I can't go, so even the Sisters of Battle tanks that you can't buy anymore, if I can't go on Forge World and I can't buy that kit, you should not be releasing rules for match play from it.
Yeah.
For match play. Like at all. There shouldn't be match play rule for stuff that you cannot buy. You know, this is a miniatures company. You should make the miniature and then make the rules.
Yeah.
And I understand where that route came from, is they wanted to write like Forge World books with lots of rules in them, but they didn't want to like pump out the models because they couldn't afford to. But nowadays they can. So
Yeah.
they shouldn't have that.
And they have the legend thing they can use, or they can just not write the rules.
Just put them in Legends. Yeah, just keep it to stuff that you sell and make sure that they make sense.
Yeah.
I don't want to see like if a guy has a heavy bolter on it, but there's a little skull on the heavy bolter, a Forge World one. It doesn't need to be some custom thing. Like make them more normal. Make them fit in more.
Yeah. And then I
Like-
hope if they do that it will fit in. So we won't see no Forge World things popping up. And I hope it just gets to a level where it's just accepted that these are all the same rule set. Just these models happen to be made by Forge World and these models are made by GW. 'Cause that would be the ultimate. And they can only achieve that if they do, you know, what we talked about. Like, has to make sense, has to fit into the game. And, you know, and we have to get rid of this stuff where you don't have models for it. Like, it's just...
Yeah, it just doesn't make sense, right? And it's like, and then you don't recognize it, and yeah, it doesn't work.
And it does what? It's usually something that's like really like gotcha or like annoying, and you're like, what?
Yeah. And like Forge World rules should be for models, not for regiments necessarily. Like that doesn't work for like the Death Corps of Craig. Obviously, will be like a full regiment, but like they don't necessarily need new Space Marine chapter rules. Like if you have a really cool like Forge World character, but he's like a Blood Angel successor, then they should just be Blood Angel. So that way there's not like these additional of just like crappy rules or weird rules or things like that. I want it just more clean and streamlined.
But you know, most of those Space Marine characters don't have models.
Vast majority of them don't, and that'd
Yeah.
be fine. Get rid of them.
So we should just get rid of them all, really. Yeah. There's already enough leeway in the way that they've written the Marine books and how you can write successors and stuff and write your own fluff and heraldry and stuff that you can just make that. And you don't need like a whole separate like made up rules for models that don't exist.
Yeah, the game has a lot of rules now. Yeah.
Yeah.
They don't need it, or like you like, keep that stuff in 30K, keep that stuff in Legends, and like people can play with it. And I don't want to say like, oh, because you converted this Raptor captain that's like super amazing, blah blah blah. I don't want to take that away from you, but I also don't want to have this bloat in the game.
Yeah.
You know, game. Yeah, get rid of the bloat. And Forge World, you know, they have a rocky past with the way they word and the way they write their rules, and it just needs to be more consistent with the GW, and then they need to update them as the times come on. Like that was the other problem, is that you're reading rules from 2 editions ago that are being kind of massaged to work from Forge World. It needs to be a real thing.
Yeah. Well, we know GW is writing them now, so hopefully
Exactly. So
would
it
be
should be
okay.
fine. Yeah, it should be fine.
yeah, and they used the Custodes beta as a testing ground, and for the most part it was like okay.
Yeah, and
It
like
wasn't crazy like
cut,
previous Forge World.
cut the entire Custodes range. Let's face it, nobody wants them on the table.
No, just give us the plastic stuff and then
Get rid of them all. Just cut the whole range. Done. Custodes aren't an army. They're on Terra. Just kidding.
Okay, that is it.
Wicked. So I guess thanks for listening, guys, and
All
have a
right.
good one.
Good night.